This is Brother Jamal coming to you again, um, June 29th, 2020, with another video this morning. And we continue to talk about our theme is maintaining justice. We continue to talk about that and kind of just expound on that. Allah commands us to maintain justice. And the way we maintain justice is that when we judge between people, regardless of race, nationality, background, where people come from, Allah commands us that in order to maintain justice, and the way you to maintain justice is when you judge between people. In any kind of judgment, the judgment has to be done with fairness. If it's not done with fairness, then any kind of judging or any kind of judgment, it will be unjust. So once again, Allah commands us that when we judge between people, it has to be done with fairness. That is the key to all of it, is fairness. Now, you may ask, why am I using this commandment that Allah instructs us and stresses upon us to do? Simply because America has not been, let me rephrase that. There has not been any fairness in the way America has treated the black people and black citizens of this country. There has not been any fairness in the judgment or in the ruling, and whatever you want to do, say, however you want to put it. Because today's time, we see so many attacks that are occurring. We see so many racist attacks that are occurring. We see so many hate crime. We see so many assaults that are occurring up on the black citizen and black people. It could be a black female, male, boy, girl, child, you name it. We see the kind of attacks, the kind of racist attacks, the kind of assaults, the kind of murders, the kind of hate crimes. All of this comes across, and there has not been any fairness. There's not any fairness. In so many of these cases, so many of these situations, you do not see any fairness being if there's a deliberation, if there's a outcome, there's not any fairness when it comes to relating to black people. And so some people might, the one thing that people are throwing up now, and I hear people saying this a lot about black on black crime. I'll be the first to admit, yeah, there's a problem with black on black crime. That doesn't mean that we drop this assault that's occurring on black people now by these police departments across the country. That doesn't mean that we drop that. No, we keep this at front and center, and we work, inshallah, try to work on both of these at the same time. It doesn't mean that we drop one and let one go and let the other just focus on the other. No, we don't do that. I mean, inshallah, we try to work on both of these things at the same time. One of them is just as important as the other. So, and the other thing that that you see people will try to do, they'll try to neutralize the movement I should say, against social injustice, the movement against oppression, and the movement against institutionalized racism. They'll try to neutralize that, and talk about black on black crime, and how can you be talking about these subjects and you have black on black crime? Well, we can talk about both of them, and as I said, inshallah, we can try to work on both of them. But we're not going to drop one and just solely go to that and then let the other one go. No, inshallah, we can work on both of these at the same time. That's number one. Work on both of them at the same time and come up with a long-range plan and goal to work on black crime. The other thing is too is that people do not want to face the reality of the history. You have to take into consideration anytime that you begin to talk about the social injustice in this country right now, and even institutionalized racism. Anytime you take in these two subjects and oppression, you take in these two subjects, you have to be able to have a clear analogy, a clear understanding of history and how history comes into play with what is going on in today's time. Because we cannot disregard. I'm not talking about just slavery alone. I'm not talking about that. I am not talking about just that alone, because oftentimes that's all people want to talk about. No, I'm talking about the injustice. I say it to you on other occasions. If we want to talk about the corruption with these police officers, I can take you back to 1990. Almost every major city in the U.S. has a history of police corruption and police brutality and police murder. Every major city has a record of that, has a history of that. So it's important that people understand the movement now that you see present in 2020, a movement towards social injustice, oppression, and institutionalized racism. This is something that has just not started this year. This movement has been going on since 1990, even before 1990. This is the same movement that's going on in 1960, 1950. Because once again, America has not, even to this day as we speak, America has not recognized and does not realize that black people are human. They have not recognized it. They think, even today, they think that black people are not human. And if you think someone is not human, then you're not going to treat them with humanity. You're not going to treat them like a human being. You're going to treat them in the worst derogatory way. You're going to attack them, you're going to assault them, you're going to murder them, and you're going to have all kind of hate crimes towards those people because you do not view them as being human. If you have a law, and it's called segregation, which was in this country, and I say this to the people who may not be from America, I say it to people outside of America, that for so long in this country, in the 1930s, the 1940s, from the beginning, really, that black people were considered not to be human for a long time. And so in today's time, if you cannot understand the dynamics of why black people are still being treated, still being murdered, still being attacked, still being assaulted, that's because this country has not recognized black people as being human. And when you do not recognize someone as being human, then you treat them as less, not equal, less. Why is it we always heard this idea of superiority, inferiority? That's because they have looked at black people as being inferior. Doesn't make any difference how hard you work, go to the best schools, get the best education, they still consider you to be inferior and them superior. All of this goes back to this whole genetic thing. When they talk about genetics, they talk about the size of the brain and all of this. This has all been applied to black people because the genetics has always went back and made it look like black people had a smaller brain. They had something inferior that was wrong with them. All of this goes back into the pocket of looking at black people as not being human beings. This is what they have used over the years as a justification, even in today's time. When you see them murdering someone, when you see them tasing someone, when you see them attacking someone, I'm talking about these corrupt police departments. This is because they don't view black people as being human. They don't think that we bleed. They don't think we have emotions. They don't, none of that. See? Let me also say too that Allah has given us certain things as a test. I know we don't think that this has happened. We don't think this is occurring. We don't think it's going on. Allah has given us this virus as a test. And whenever Allah decides to lift this, only Allah can lift it. No one else, nobody else will be able to lift this virus but Allah. And at the same time, He has given us so many signs, and this really applies to America. America has been given so many signs to the heedlessness of America, and has been for some time, where America has got to be so arrogant and so boasters and brag about things. This is the heedlessness that the Quran talks about, when the people get to where they are being so heedless, and Allah would send us signs. He would send a warner. He would send a messenger. He would send somebody to the people to try to get them to repent, try to encourage them to stop doing wrong. It talks about the importance of always. It's important in a society, in a country, in a nation, wherever you have a group of people who stand for what is right, firmly stand for what is right, and at the same time be strongly opposed to what is wrong. Today's time, we see that. We see a strong group of people, this movement, who is standing against what is wrong, strongly against what is wrong, and trying to promote to what is right. And we know that social injustice is wrong. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's wrong. Social injustice is wrong. Oppression is wrong. Institutionalized racism, where you had institutions in this country from the beginning of time who have discriminated or had laws put in place to discriminate against a people based on their color. Nothing else. Institutionalized racism that's ingrained in the foundation, that's ingrained in the root of the obsession of America. Because look, if there was no institutionalized racism, why would you have slavery? Why would you go across another part of the world, kidnap people, and bring them to America, then enslave them? And I've said this on many occasions, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century. Most of the people who were kidnapped from the African countries, who were brought here in bondage, were Muslims that came here. They were persecuted and ridiculed after they got here, and so many of them convinced to change their religion. Some of them stayed here, some of them worked, some of them continued to do good, some of them escaped, went back to Africa. Most of those brothers and sisters who came here could read the Holy Quran in Arabic, fluently in Arabic, and could speak and talk in Arabic. So we know for a fact, this has been documented in an excellent book by Dr. Abdul Quick, a scholar, who has documented, his book is called Deeper Roots. He has documented the trail that left from the shores of Africa and arrived in America. He talks about the trail and all the Muslims who came here at that particular time. And so this is the history of America. So at the same time, once they got the Muslims here, once they got them here and documented them, then they came up with a law called segregation. They had them picking cotton. That's where America made its money from, made its wealth from. At that particular time was the cotton. And so the slaves worked from sun up to sundown, picking cotton, building this country to where the riches and the wealth. And this is where America today's time become heatless, because those civilizations that Allah destroyed during that time, he destroyed those civilizations because they became heedless. They became arrogant. They began to boast and brag about all the wealth and all the things that they had. And so what did he do? At a time when they was least expecting it. In some stories that talk about where the people were asleep and he destroyed the whole civilization. The only people that was left was the people that followed the messengers, that followed the warners who came. Those are the only people who were spared, because most of them, like in the day's time, the people become heedless the same way. So once again, we just wanted to say this. And let me also say too, it's important that in these cases where black people have been attacked, have been murdered, you see hate crimes, you see all kind of assaults that's going on, it's extremely important that communities and people get together and make sure that if they get an autopsy, you get one from outside the state, because most of those state examiners, they're going to go along with the status quo. They're going to go along with the system. So you have to get an outside autopsy. You have to get an outside autopsy, someone that's going to give you a ruling that's not hooked up with the state. The other thing is too, that when these kind of hate crimes, these kind of assaults, these kind of attacks go on, it's important that people demand to see the street security footage cameras, because they should capture everything, who did what, who it was. It should capture all of that. Demanding to see the street security footage. That's it. That's important. It's important that we do that. And all these lynching where these black men have been lynched and hung, it's important to demand the security street cameras footage before they delete it, before they say or erase it or say it's nothing there. But anytime that something happens, those cameras, those security footage cameras on the street, they should pick up and show exactly what happened, who did it, everything. It should do. But you gotta press for that. You gotta demand for that. That has to be something, not a long delay, but it needs to be something that's done soon, because when it comes to these attacks, assaults and murder and hate crimes that's going on across America, these security footage and security cameras that they have up on the street, they should show exactly who did it, where, what, and how it was done, and who the people were. But you have to demand to get that as soon as possible. You can't wait. There cannot be no delay, because they have a tendency to go back and delete stuff. They'll go back and say it wasn't nothing there, it's not anything there. But that is so important as it relates to getting to the bottom of so much of this stuff that's going on. So once again, we wanted to bring you this video this morning as we continue to keep up our discussion and talk on maintaining the ways that we maintain justice. It's when we judge between people, it has to be judged with, the judgment has to be with fairness. If fairness is not involved, there's not going to be there's not going to be a fair judge ruling if fairness is not involved. And in most cases, as I say it again, I repeat myself again. In most cases, America, 99% of the cases in America, as it relates to black people, there has been no fairness in the liberation of whatever it is. No fairness at all. When we talk about institutionalized racism, there has been no fairness in any kind of deliberation, because institutionalized racism still exists today, June 29, 2020, as we speak. It still exists. Oppression still exists today in America. And we know that social injustice all of these cases that you see across America, where the police have murdered people and continue. It's not like this is what the people need to understand. This continues to go on. It's not like it has stopped. It has ceased. We're seeing more of it happen, and more every day. People are seeing this white supremacist element